Stay up to date with all that's happening with the new national party, NNP. Send us a message via text or WhatsApp on 405-8683 with your name, email, and constituency. Stay in the know with NNP. Get updated.
If you want to stay married, divorce speed. Never drink and drive. After whiskey, driving is risky. A message from the Traffic Department of the Royal Grenada Police Force. Public Workers Union and the Grenada Technical and Allied Workers Union signs agreement for salary increases from January 2020. Details to this story and more in the National Report. Welcome back with the details to the news of Friday, January 17, 2020. I am Sherry-Ann Noel. Joint negotiating unions, Public Workers Union and the Grenada Technical and Allied Workers Union have signed on to the collective bargaining agreement for salary increases for public officers for the period 2020 to 2022. On Friday, President of the Public Workers Union, Rachel Roberts, and President General of the Technical and Allied Workers Union, Andrew Lewis, in the presence of the Labour Commissioner, signed on to the agreement. This follows months of negotiations between the government negotiating team and the joint unions. As of January 2020, all qualified public officers will receive a 4% increase until the period ends in 2022.
While we have signed off on this document, we know that we have a number of outstanding issues that we must fix on the table very quickly, because as we have signed, we are very concerned that some of our members are not at this moment going to be receiving that 4%. And therefore, we want to say to these members, we are negotiating diligently on the table to ensure that all our members benefit. Government did indicate on the table that all members would be receiving 4%. And as such, we expect, our expectation is that all our members would be receiving that 4%.
And it is our expectation that our members will get the increase as we have signed. But most importantly, as the government has been saying, that all who would have made sacrifices over the period and worked in the government service must share in the rewards. And therefore, it is our expectation that all workers, let me repeat, all workers in keeping with the commitment given by the government of Grenada, all the workers who work side by side with the established workers will receive the 4% increase for 2020, the 4% increase for 2021, and 4% increase for 2022.
Moving along, the Royal Grenada Police Force, in collaboration with the Ministry of Infrastructure, on Wednesday held a town hall meeting with residents of Mount Morris at the Mount Morris Community Centre. The meeting was called as a result of the significant geological shift in a section of the Molyneux Public Road that has affected the structural integrity of the road. The full extent of the significant geological shift is not certain, and a number of regional engineering firms have been engaged to assess the gravity of the situation. As a result of the aforementioned, the Monkmorris Public Road has been so designated as bypass roads from two areas that came into effect December 16, 2019. Acting Chief Technical Officer in the Ministry of Infrastructure, Naja Andal, in addressing the issue, stated that during the last quarter of 2019, the Ministry of Infrastructure began procuring an engineering firm and referred to the $38 million funding facility under the UK SIFT for the Western Corridor that is administered under the Caribbean Development Bank.
Before the Molyneux slippage started getting as bad as it is now, we had a particular TOR to address all slippages, right? So we wanted to address more than 12 slip areas. But given the extent to which the road has deteriorated now, we have to speak to our development partners, not the Caribbean Development Bank, and come to some agreement on one, what will we redraft the terms of reference to reflect? Do we want to get an additional funding facility for the Molyneux because it is a national disaster right now, or do we want to leave it under that initial facility? So that will mean that maybe the Molyneux slip will be the only project funded under that. So these are decisions that we have been analyzing and that we have to make.
Officer in charge of the Traffic Department, Superintendent Randy Carnott, in addressing the residents, said that the options were very limited and the only two bypass were Freedom Street area and the Jones Road.
Two concepts were conceptualized. The initial one was to route the traffic in the opposite direction to which it was. And then after review, and you have some seniors within the community who always reach out. I wouldn't identify them here by name. But when they reach out, we had that discussion. And we realized that putting this additional volume of traffic in Monkmorris and to route the traffic the opposite direction to which it is now would have placed an even more significant challenge to the residents. And we had to take that into consideration. Hence the reason why we rethink this strategy, and the traffic is as it is right now. And to date, I don't think that we have on record any accident in that particular area. I could only remember there was one breaking down of a vehicle. But if there was any accident, it might just have been just an isolated case.
The only other option, Superintendent Carnott says, was the Grenville Vale route to exit through the Constantine area.
This option was only reserved for trucks. While that was so, I still get reports that occasionally, especially at nights, truck drivers do find and take opportunity of that corridor, creating an additional burden to the residents in the area. Constantine area was not an option because for those of us who know Constantine Road, exiting onto the main road down to Bolio, there's a treacherous, couple of treacherous corners. Roads have been broken off, and that would be putting commuters at additional risk, and those are persons who are not familiar with that area. So in making those decisions, we had to look at all of the implications, take into consideration that there are persons who would not be familiar, and the volume of traffic, just imagine the volume of traffic that you experience right now is shifted to Constantine with those serious road breakage in the area. So public safety was paramount in our decision going forward.
Residents of Monkmorris were asked to be very cooperative and told of the plans from both the RGPF and the Ministry of Infrastructure to ensure that areas of the road that needs attention is given immediate attention, as safety is of paramount importance. This is the National Report. More news after the break.
Did you join the public service on or after February 22nd, 1985 and have since retired? This might be important to you. Government understands that the NIS pension may be insufficient to take care of your needs. So, while it awaits the court's ruling on the matter of pension for public officers, government has taken action to protect your quality of life so that you can take care of your needs in the meantime. Persons who joined the public service on or after February 22nd, 1985 and serve continuously in an established position for a minimum 26 years and 8 months, and retired at age 60, may be eligible to receive an advance payment, which when combined with NIS, represents 70% of their last salary. For more information, call or visit the Pension Secretariat in the Department of Public Administration, Ministerial Complex, 440-3767.
Welcome back. Prime Minister Dr. the Right Honourable Keith Mitchell and the 4 parliamentary representatives for St. Andrew handed over a cheque of $10,000 to the Munich Invaders Cricket Club on Thursday. The joint monetary contribution was promised to the winning team by the MPs and Prime Minister in 2019 at the start of the 2019 Cricket League. Parliamentary Representative for St. Andrew South East, Honourable Emmeline Pear, said the contribution is intended to help maintain the proper organisation of the sport within the parish.
You can count on us. We are going to continue to support. We are going to continue to encourage. And one of the things we have always advocated for is better organisation of cricket in St. Andrew. And in saying this, I want to commend Brother Hilaire and his executive for the efforts they've made thus far. First, that we had cricket last year, and that's the first thing. And second is the effort that has been made to organize not just teams, but clubs. I heard him emphasize this, and it is the way to go. Ensuring that we move from teams to more clubs within our communities, that we do not have some of the challenges that we have in running the tournament in the future. Prepared to present to the Munich Invaders Sports Club, and I commend them, not a team, it's a club. 2 cheques valued at $5,000 each, a total of $10,000. Congratulations and continue to support.
President of the St. Andrew Cricket Council, Terry Hilaire, commended the MPs and the Prime Minister for the support, which he believes will act as a motivation to the other teams in upcoming competitions.
St. Andrew's cricket, as we know, is the backbone of cricket in this country. And by having the 4 MPs in St. Andrews and the Prime Minister backing us, I believe that it is a plus, and we are asking them to continue to support St. Andrew's cricket, continue to ensure that cricket play at a high level in St. Andrews.
And finally, 1 month after the Traffic Department activated 2 bypasses through the village of Mount Morris, members of the RGPF and representatives from the Ministry of Infrastructure held a meeting with the residents. The meeting was held at the Mount Morris Community Centre and chaired by Commissioner of Police Acting Edwin Martin. The residents were given an opportunity to speak on some of the challenges experienced and give possible suggestions to guide the process of making the flow of traffic less challenging during peak hours.
I think they should put up guardrails very soon, because somebody's going to drive over and lose their life. You know what I mean? So that's all I have to say.
We can commit to installing galvanized pipe rails and some wooden rails until we get to
Are we looking for something temporary?
Yes, we can do that. We can do that. So in the coming week, you will see some action on that.
I as well live in the Jones Road. We live right at the bottom of the hill coming from Mr. Campbell. During the duration of what's been happening, we have been traveling the road as we used to, going up the hill on mornings, coming back down. If we were to go around the road, it would essentially take us at least 15 to 20 minutes to reach back into Mount Morris, in which time we would have reached maybe about Cherry Hill, if not a town, depending on traffic, which is going to be a major setback for us. We haven't had any issues coming out, given that when we leave the yard, we can pull in on the side. If a vehicle is coming down, you blow your horn going up the hill. Some vehicles would blow back to say, yes, we're there, and you on the side when you get to the top. Some vehicles don't give any indication, but so far we haven't had any problem moving that way. The only issue that we have been having is that they're not giving us the chance to pull into our yard or pull out. There's no way for you to pull into the yard. You have to pull on the side. Vehicles pass. Sometimes you're turning and vehicles are coming down on top of you, which is a big issue because from the top of the hill, as soon as you break the hill, you can see that there's a vehicle in the middle of the road and nobody wants to stop.
A very short and precise action or answer to this question is no. And no because, not just bluntly no and arrogantly no,
but no because of the inherent risk that is involved. You may be running at 20 minutes longer on a route, but you must calculate that against the risk of $1,000 of repairs to your vehicle for an accident that can occur. It is an area where the most critical of sacrifices is required, the Drones Road area, because this is where the persons in that area lives seem to be disrupted the most. And we need to understand that the decisions here, we cannot allow any margin of risk that can cause injury to you and your vehicles or oncoming persons who are not aware of those circumstances. I take the comments on board and we will relook the matter. There is no definitive response that there will be a change, but we will relook this matter to see if there can be some sort of flexibility in that plan. But the decision we are leaving here with is no. The plan will have to remain as it is because the risk is simply too high.
And with that, we come to the end of the National Report for Friday, January 17th, 2019. On behalf of the entire news and production team, I am Sherry Ann Noel, thanking you for viewing.
passing the testing. Bring them up. It's not a loss, it's just a lesson. Be grateful for your blessings. You've been digging deep to find that inner strength. No, it's not the time to give up. No, nah, 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 nah. I'm telling you, nothing they do will never defeat me. We control your destiny. I'm telling you, take your hand and point it up in the ceiling for me. I feel so irate. Wake up and I ready. Must make it ever steady. Setting goals is necessary while they hiding. Precious time they wasting like a disease is that spreading. Now it shift their eyesight. I say, I don't know why. Some will worry about that next man's stride. Try to match up on next man's life. Fix your life. And as soon as I start walking on, you want to make something must be wrong, yeah man. I don't come here for that, all you help me burn and dirty. I'm telling you, nothing they do will never defeat me. Because show me your destiny. I'm telling you, take your hand and point it up in the ceiling for me. I'm telling you, number one, we don't come to take nothing from them. I'm telling you, people, music, look, everybody chanting. I'm telling you, with people, business, while we come to need blessings. I'm telling you, don't corrupt sometimes, so everybody can see message. No bad vibes on my side.
Good morning, Grenada. You're listening to Hard Talk Grenada, a special good morning to all of our listening audience. Those of you listening on 97.5 City Sound FM, 89.5 CRFM, 92.9 Sister Isle Radio, broadcasting from Hillsborough, Carriacou, 94.9 We Noise Radio, and of course, those of you joining us on the live video, whether it's on Facebook or on YouTube, a special good morning to you. Of course, it is a beautiful, beautiful Monday morning here in the Spice Isle of Grenada, Carriacou, and PT Martinique. And of course, we are back at it again with a conversation on all things Grenada, all things that matter. And of course, in studio with me today, I have none other than Mr. Roland Bola. Mr. Bola, is it the first time you're in studio for the new year?
Good morning to you, Ms. Duncan. Good morning to our listening public. I welcome myself for 2020 to the program once again. Ms. Duncan did not see it fit to welcome me. She wanted to question me about whether or not it was the first time for the year. She would know, and I would know. But
I'm not sure.
I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be able to share whatever bit of knowledge that I would have acquired on some topical issues. There are some other issues that are not so topical, but probably some people wish to hear something about it. So I'm here to share with you, Grenada, and to share in your concerns.
Of course. And we're not going to stay very long with the pleasantries, because we have something so very important to talk about. And everything we talk about here is important, but I think this matter needed a little bit of rehashing, you know. And but before we get into that, I want to speak about what we're doing for the remainder of this week, because we thought it important that we start the conversation of buying local, supporting local, and what we can do to help boost our local economy. You know, because I think we talk a lot, you know, about what Grenada is producing, but what we don't talk about is how we contribute to what Grenada produces, you know, and what we can contribute. So this week we're going to spend a lot of time talking about that, talking about the relationship between farming and agriculture and why it's so important, talking about our import bill, talking about how we can improve our local economy and small business development and the formation of cooperatives and how important that is. So we're going to do a lot of that this week. But that's not what we're doing this morning.
You know, just before you move on, Ms. Duncan, I think it is really, really timely that the conversation, I wouldn't say should begin, but continue, because I know that there would have been several other programs, not necessarily here on Hard Talk, but several other radio programs with different hosts where mention has been made or someone would have been brought on to talk about the issue of buy local, eat local, promoting more of what we do, what we produce, what we grow, supporting of farmers, the linkage that should be made or strengthened probably, because I think there is definitely a linkage, but the linkage that should be strengthened between agriculture and tourism, and getting our visitors, the people coming to our hotels, the people coming on the cruise ship and eating at our restaurants and other food places, how we can serve more local stuff to them. But bearing in mind that our independence is right on the threshold,
of course.
I think it is really timely to bring that topic back and to have people express themselves, but more than just the expression, really start doing something, start creating activism, people really saying, look, I've heard sufficiently, I must now act and get others to follow through. And I know when we get to the discussions, there'll be a lot that needs to change, a lot that we need to do different, maybe even some government policies towards farming, towards local stuff, how we can make this thing work better for everyone involved. So I just wanted to add that to what you would have said.
And it's funny because I would have heard a while back in 2019, just coming down to the end of it, there was a particular radio program, and a caller would have called and made a very troubling statement. And he said that I believe they were talking about a lot of the small business development where you have people who were selling their produce from the market, the gardens, on in the market, and where you have people selling roast corn and all of these things. And the gentleman said that a sign of people selling roast corn on the side of the road is not a sign of development; it's a sign of poverty. And I took offense to that simply because I don't understand how you can attribute that to poverty when an individual is looking at means and ways in which they can sustain themselves. That's not a sign of poverty. That's a sign of an entrepreneurship.
Well, it just goes to show that and you have said it many times on this program. I've heard you saying that sometimes as Grenadians, we read not to understand, but just to respond, and so we hear things and we just respond without having a proper thought process, and sometimes for some of us, we are so deeply separated by our political beliefs, and the partisan politics has gotten into us so deeply that we fail to see when people are trying to do things that are purposeful, that are useful, that are going to be helpful to themselves, their family, their community. I mean, how can you not understand the whole issue of entrepreneurship, the whole issue that people are trying to be self-sufficient, becoming self-employed, and mind you, these people, and most of them, they do reasonably well. We may consider them as just an ordinary guy or lady or single mother roasting a couple of corn, but they do get by. They take care of themselves. They take care of their children. They are able to pay their bills. And it is a sign that people are willing to do things that can benefit them, and they are not prepared only for handouts. And this is what you see in a thriving economy, where people are seeing the opportunities that become available, because if it was a sign of poverty, it meant that they weren't going to get sale. No one would be able to purchase from them. The fact that they can sell day in, day out, mornings or afternoons, and they can sell what they would have purchased from the farmers, because many of those people who engage in that business of corn roasting and so don't normally produce the corn themselves. There are a few of them who probably plant a small plot or so, but generally they purchase from farmers. So you see the exchange, and you see the connection and how it spirals from one to the next. So it's not just me roasting and me planting, but I'm purchasing from a farmer who in turn may be able to employ one or two guys saying, look, I need to plant and cultivate more lands in corn because the sale is good, and buying anything local. But like I said, your intent is to deal with those issues throughout this week down the line and to make linkages with our food import bill and how we can probably deal with cutting that and allowing more of our monies that we spend on food to circulate locally within our economy.
Absolutely. So we are going to spend a lot of time. We have a few guests coming in to kind of help make those links and to give people a better understanding. So we are appealing to those of you out there listening to get your questions ready, get your concerns ready, and tune in. It's definitely going to be a very interesting conversation, and conversation that will be beneficial to all of us. Sometimes we say a lot of things that we are not informed about, and when the information is presented, we don't listen to get clarity. So we are definitely advising that people tune in, tell somebody you know. You must know somebody who want to know more about small business development, about our import bill, about how you can contribute to the local economy. It's definitely up for great conversation. But this morning, Mr. Bola, we're rehashing an issue that I think a lot of people, we don't listen. We're not good at listening as a people. And I think as Grenadians, it's fair to say that a lot of us lack critical thinking skills, and it's sad that on a Monday morning we have to come back here and talk about this, but it's absolutely necessary for us to bring up this topic once again. But before we bring up the topic, we have a caller. Let's just take this caller because it seems like she's very eager. So let's just take this. Yes. I'm confident it's a she. Good morning, caller.
Hi, morning. Let me just make 3 quick comments, please. First of all, the people who sell corn on the side of the road, if they have to go to town or in some town in Guava or whatever, in specific places to sell the corn, they wouldn't get the corn sold. Because if I need a corn, I am not going to go to St. George's to get a corn. But because there are people on the sides of the roads as I'm traveling, I can buy corn.
Of course.
Okay? So it's better for them to be able to be, in strategic places. Secondly, I would like to say congratulations to Minister Pierre for that initiative she had at the beginning of school. And I would just like her to know that they are more for her than they who are against her. And thirdly, we have a problem with the import of vehicles. I think the government made a good move to decide vehicles over 10 years cannot come in. That's a good move. But I think they also have to look into the fact that there are too many vehicles parking on the side of the road, and people need to show that they have a garage or some yard or something, so to put their vehicle in rather than people, blocking the traffic. Have a good day, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you so much for your contribution. So, Mr. Bola, the topic for this morning is that circular. That circular that I would have spoken in length about on Friday morning. And I'm hoping, of course, as a former public servant, that you can pitch in and chime in and share some more information on this, because we still have people out there who just don't understand. And then we also have people who it's not that they don't understand, but they prey on the fact that there are Grenadians who don't understand, and they put a political spin on it. So they make it seem as if there is some attack or government has instituted some new law that is meant to attack or meant to victimize or meant to set back public workers or fellow Grenadians. And I want to, for all of the people who had not had the opportunity to hear that circular or have access to that circular, I want to take this opportunity to read it once again. And this circular was passed, I believe, within the Ministry of Education. However, it does not just apply to teachers within or public servants within the Ministry of Education, but it applies to all public servants. Right? And I'll show, of course, reference to that in our staff or the orders. So the public servants who don't have access or say that they don't have access to these laws, the staff orders are very readily available for them to have a copy of and see. It's there in black and white, and the circular reads, "It has been brought to the attention of this ministry that a number of teachers are engaging in or seeking to undertake work during or outside of normal working hours without the appropriate authorization. Consequently, the attention of all concerned is now drawn to the following excerpts from SRO 27 of the laws of Grenada." And SRO is basically the staff orders, right? Order 26 says, "Public officers, whether on leave of absence or not, are forbidden to undertake any private work for payment or to engage in trade or employ themselves in any commercial or agricultural undertakings without the consent of the appropriate service commission. B, to undertake any private agency in any matter concerned with the exercise of their public duties." Order 27 reads, "Public officers are not allowed to accept the auditorship or directorship of societies or companies without the approval of the appropriate service commissions. Principals are urged to bring the proceedings to the attention of all members of staff and to be guided accordingly." Sabola, did you have a chance to read this?
Well, first of all, Ms. Duncan, before you go on, put the letter back up.
Mm-hmm.
Because I thought you read the contents, but you probably should start from on top. At the very head of the letter, it says Government of Grenada.
Yes.
Right? And then it says circular number, and there's a number there.
Mm-hmm.
So that indicates that circulars have been going out, because it's not number one. I'm not seeing number one there.
Mm-hmm.
Circular whatever of 2020. Is that
number 6. Mm-hmm.
It's number 6. So it means that this is the 6th circular for 2020, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's coming from who? Not the Prime Minister, not the Minister of Education, because it says so on the letter. It says from the Chief Education Officer, acting Ministry of Education,
human resource
whatever, because I'm a little distance from your computer.
Religious affairs and information.
And then it says 2. So it's coming from the Chief Education Officer. So that's something that we need to take cognizance of.
Of course.
And I'll say why it is important later on. And then it says who it's going to. Who is it going to? Officers
of the school and curriculum division, heads of the student support services and the testing and measurement units, managers, supervisors, Grenada Union of Teachers, principals and staff of all pre-primary, primary and secondary schools.
Right? It's dated, what date?
The 8th of January.
Right. And it says the subject.
Involvement in private work.
Right. So all of that is there. So it tells you, 1, all whom the circular would have been sent to. It tells you who it came from. It tells you circular whatever number and date and the subject matter. Now, to begin with, I was appalled, right? And that's my personal feeling. I've heard some qualms about, the government is now attacking the teachers and what have you not. I've heard that, didn't pay much attention to it because I knew for myself that was not the truth. I've heard the Minister of Education is a wicked woman. The circular did not say that. It came from the minister. It came from the Chief Education Officer who themselves, whether it's a him or her, is a public servant.
Yeah.
And who has to follow the same rules and regulations, right? I just want to join something that really touched me over the weekend. I think it was Thursday, Friday evening thereabout. I was listening to a particular, very popular radio station, and one of the gentlemen who normally has an evening program, I listened to him, and I always do. And then he said, "Oh, sorry for Marga Dog. I'm trying to reproduce now what was said by that individual, that announcer. Sorry for Marga Dog." And they turn around and bite you. Hey, you ain't see what the government doing to the teachers now? Man can make a little pankwa again. You can't take a little side job. You can't do nothing. Just the 2 pence they're giving you is what you have to depend on. And he went on to play one of these Black Power uprising song. I don't remember whether it was Stand Up and Fight Back or Stand Up for Your Rights or something to that effect. No. You listen to that, and immediately what comes to mind is that government of Grenada is at war with the teachers. Absolute nonsense. The government is not at war with the teachers. The teachers is not at war with the government. The government is not in war with the unions. What the chief education officer is attempting to do is to remind the teachers, and of course, you can get it online right now. This is part of what you said. It's an SRO, which means statutory rules and orders, because they sometimes do those rules and orders. But to do a statutory rule, you must have a parent law that you take from and you simplify, and you send it out. So it becomes a statutory thing that the state knows about, the department, you know. The staff orders, the public service ordinance, this piece of ruling is, in my mind, as old as the public service itself.
1969?
It's clear. It's clear there in section 56, I think it is. You get it and tell me, because my mind is not as sharp as it used to once be. Right?
And I'll read it for you.
And read it for the public, not just me. I want all Grenadians to hear, and then I will continue with my comments.
Okay, and this is straight out of the staff orders.
Yes.
And it reads that section 56 that says activities outside of duties, and it reads, except in the case of part-time officers, an officer's whole time is at the disposal of the government. Accordingly, an officer may not at any time engage in any activities which would in any way tend to impair his usefulness as an officer, nor may he engage in any occupation or undertaking that might in any way conflict with the interest of his ministry or department, or be inconsistent with the position or with his position as an officer. It goes on to say, an officer shall not, without the prior approval of the commission, engage in any trade or any professional, commercial, agricultural, or industrial undertaking, or undertake private work for remuneration. I can go on to read.
Yes,
it says, notwithstanding that prior approval may have been given, the commissioner may at any time after notice to the officer and after holding an inquiry prohibit an officer from engaging in any trade, professional, commercial, agricultural, or industrial undertaking, undertaking private work for remuneration, if the commission is of the opinion that the officer's activities tend to impair his usefulness as an officer, or conflicts with the interests of the ministry or department, or is inconsistent with his position as an officer. It also goes on to it actually has quite a bit more.
A lot more. And we won't go into all of the others, but leave that up on screen at the moment, because I want to get back to the point I really want to make. And I wanted you to read that, because you see, no, you did not read the letter. No. You read the letter on your own. And in that letter, that circular that went out to the teachers, it was quoting certain sections from SRO. That you have just read is from the staff orders, which every public servant should know, should read, should have an understanding, because when you engage in employment with the government, this is what should guide you, the staff orders, the public service ordinance, the rules of how your employment should go. Now, sadly, quite a number of our younger public servants, some of them would tell you, I've never even heard the word staff orders. They've never seen a copy. Is it their fault? In most cases, not. While we should be interested and be searching, like we Google all sorts of things. We're on Facebook every day. We know who didn't sleep in the house last night. All of those things, because that is where we place our interest. And we are not so concerned, many of us, with understanding what our rules and functions are. But I think the public service in and of itself, the Public Service Commission, probably should wake up and recognize that there is more to do for them than just hiring and firing, ensuring that people are properly oriented with the rules, with the laws, with the regulations. Now, getting back to that circular, why was it necessary for the ministry, the chief education officer, to send a circular like that out? What would have caused the chief education officer to want to do that? Now, the teachers are working. Some people tend to attribute that to say, oh, there's work to rule and the government is getting back at the teachers. Absolutely not. In as much as I know, I'm no longer a minister, but I do not know that the government is in war. Work to rule has been on now for what? Going on its second year? Probably third year, I don't know, but it's a long time. We see what's happening. There have been some schools that have had problems. The ministry has sought to deal with it. But I do not believe that at this stage there's any war, between the teachers and the ministry. As a matter of fact, if one should make a comment, I would want to say that I believe the relationship has improved from what I've seen and what I've heard. People are getting a better understanding of the issues over which they were struggling, yes? Yeah. And so better reasoning is now in place than before. Why would the government at this time want to engage in a war? No. There must be a reason why the education officer saw it fit. And I sought to investigate on my own and spoke to a couple of people. So one, there have been issues and continue to be issues with the entire public service as it relates to people having more than one job. And of course, the circular did not say that you could not or you should not. Yeah. The circular is clearly pointing to what the staff orders say. Before you engage in any private, industrial, agricultural, any other form of employment, you must first seek and get approval, get the permission from the commission. Yeah. Right? That's what it is saying. There is nothing in the letter, neither in the law. And I am not a legal luminary. But any lawyer will read that and say to you, there is nothing in this law or in this circular that said you should not be engaged or you cannot be engaged or we will not allow you to be engaged. All it is saying is that before you engage, seek the approval from the relevant authority. So when a radio announcer would say, look at what the government is doing to the teachers, that you can't make a little pankwai, he's off track.
And this is a law. So regardless of whatever political party is in administration, they must abide by it.
This is the law.
This
is age-old law. It is not a law that the new National Party put in place. It is not a law that this present crop of ministers went to Parliament and passed. It is something that I say it is almost as old as the public service itself. You can go back and check when that staff order was actually 1969. 1969 was when that was first established. Yeah. I won't tell you how much years I was at that time, but I might have been running around in not so good pants during those days, and but we'll leave that for another time. But it tells you how age that piece of regulation, that law, has been in place.
But not to cut you, Mr. Bowler, this is not a law that only applies to Grenada. All over the world, wherever it is, because there's a lady here saying that she works in a bank in New York, and before she engages in any private business, she must inform her employer. This is international standard.
Simple, right? So, and that is where I was leading to say that we oftentimes say on this program that you hear something, you see something, verify before you share. Yeah. You oftentimes say, let's read to understand and not just read it to respond. Yeah. So we have so many people out there lambasting, criticizing the government, the Prime Minister, the Minister for Education, who themselves have not done anything. The Chief Education Officer's role is to ensure the proper and efficient running of the school system, the education system. His role is to supervise. He has a number of supervisors to see that they do and practice what they are supposed to do based on the rules of engagement for the employment, right? And I'm getting back. Why would you at this time send the circular? One, I believe it is a reminder to everybody, reminding them it's a new year. It's in January 6th, whatever the date was, 8 January 8, 2 days after school would have reopened, that now we have started a new year. Remember, this is part of the rules that you must abide by, right? So we clarify that. But secondly, if anyone does the investigation, they would recognize that throughout last year and previously, that the Ministry of Education has been engaging the top brass of the union, the Grenada Union of Teachers, on a monthly basis, and sometimes even twice or 3 times a month, if needs be. Yeah. And they have been discussing several issues, of which one of those is absenteeism of teachers from the classes. Right? Further investigation would reveal that a number of those teachers who are absent from time to time, or sometimes very late to attend their classes, would be late simply because they are engaged in some other business of their own. Right? Now remember, the circular, neither the law, didn't say that you cannot be. They say first seek the approval and the permission. So you must apply and say, look, I am a teacher, or I'm employed, or I have been employed for X amount of time as a teacher, but I now intend to do X, Y, Z. And the reason why you must write to seek permission is because the commission will want to bring you in, would want to have a dialogue with you, would want to ask you certain questions, would want to ensure that in the performance of that additional duty that you want to take up, or business that you want to establish, that in no way your timing will not be in conflict, as the law clearly points out. At any time, you should not be engaged in anything that will be in conflict with. So whatever period of time you're expected to be in the classroom, in the school, between whatever hours, whatever else you are going to be engaged in, the commission will want to ensure that it doesn't conflict with that time. But the law goes on to say that notwithstanding that permission is being given to you or to the individual, to the teacher, the whatever position, the policeman, whatever position that you hold in the service, that an inquiry can be carried out. So, in this case, we're talking specifically to teachers.
Right.
report comes in that Duncan was given permission by the commission, but they have found over a period of time that in doing that second job, in running that business that you have started, it starts affecting your performance in the classroom. So one, you're either late regularly or consistently. Two, it may be something that involved, the second job may involve you being up late at night, so you fall asleep in class. Mm-hmm. Three, you are absent very often because you are engaged in that duty outside of your teaching profession. And we're sticking specific to teachers now, but it's the same thing that would happen to any other public servant in any other form in the service, right? So they say seek the permission. So here you have the chief education officer reminding people. But I keep wanting to get to that point, which is so salient. Why would he? Now, if everything is operating smooth, you have your children in your home. You pass certain rules. There are rules of engagement as to how we behave at the dining table. Mm-hmm. There are rules of engagement as to how you should keep your bedroom. There are rules of engagement, what you should do after you use the bathroom. Now, if all of those are followed, if all of those are done to specs, would you be telling your children or bringing them to a meeting, bringing them around the table and speaking to them about, oh, you should do this when you go to the bathroom? Because they're following it. So you are supervising and you're recognizing that things are okay. You may probably every now and then say, well done, you're doing good. I have no reason to complain, something like that. The fact that you will complain or you will remind them or you will point them to the rules that has been established and is stuck there and say, go back and read the rules again and see what it says, is because you would have found defects in their way of operating. Yeah. Okay? So, the why. The why the chief education officer would have sent out is because there are defects. And I'll give a few examples that I have discovered from my inquiry. So, one, I was told that there are so many areas where the regulation is not being adhered to. So, broadly, people are engaged in a lot of other activities without first seeking the permission. And the law clearly states you must first seek, you must write, you must apply, you must say to the commission, I want to be engaged. Because the law didn't say you cannot. It said get permission. So the commission can do the investigation, as we say, and decide whether or not what you're going to be engaged in otherwise is going to affect your ability to perform your duties as a teacher. Good. There's an incident, for example, where a teacher who is engaged, and I'm reporting now from my investigation what I found out, in farming, animals, be chicken or pigs or whatever, and would apply not to the commission for permission to be engaged in that additional stuff. Whoever he is engaged already, but would apply to the principal for a day off because on that particular day he has to slaughter some of it, which is exactly what the law is trying to prevent.
Yeah, but who attends to his classroom when he's doing that?
That's the point, because the law clearly states whatever you will be engaged in must not in any way, shape, or form affect your ability to perform your first and foremost task, which is to teach. So when you apply to the principal and say, I need a day off on such and such day, and the reasons are because I have to do that, immediately you see where you are in conflict with what the law from 1969, not a new law, as some people want to make it look that the party or the government has just put in place. A law that was there since 1969. That's one. There's another incident That was reported to me. And all of those are issues that the ministry, the hierarchy of the ministry, and the hierarchy of the union, the teachers' union, the union that acts on behalf of the teachers, have been discussing and going forward and backward. And the union had said to the ministry, well, it is your responsibility to manage and to, put a handle and to take hold. Now, here it is, the ministry is reminding people what the regulation says. They didn't take anybody to court. They didn't try to discipline anybody. But there are many issues where they can. Yeah. But they are using those to say, everyone, be aware, take cognizance of. Mm-hmm. There's a case where a particular teacher, this time a female, has been repeatedly sending in sick leave. Well, I am not a medical doctor. I don't think the chief education officer is either, and so may not be in a position to determine. But there is some piece of regulation somewhere. It could be in the staff orders. We may have to search to see, which speaks to the issue of medical leave, sick leave.
Yes.
Where the government or the particular ministry or department, if they are suspicious of the number of times that you're taking sick leave, if someone, your supervisor or someone feels that those sick leaves are not authentic enough, they have, by virtue of the law, a responsibility to take that particular individual to another doctor or another medical practitioner to get a second opinion.
Right.
The law speaks to that, and we can look it up and we'll be able to share it with people. Yes? But the one in particular that I'm talking about, always sick, can't attend class, can't come to school, sick leave after sick leave after sick leave. Then the ministry would find out that that particular teacher who is unable to attend classes because they're medically unfit is advertising to do afternoon classes. So the ad is out that they are available. So you're sick, medically unfit to go to the classroom, but you're advertising
afternoon classes. But wait, it doesn't end there. And that's why I tell you, sometimes, if we do not know the background, we should not say. We should seek to find out. I mean, this is a free country. I think communication and speech freedom is greater in this country than anywhere else. I don't remember the number, but somebody could help me. Maybe Nazim could look it up. I'm sure we are about 30 radio stations operating in Grenada, if not more, where everybody just go on and just talk as they wish. Yes. That's run your mouth. So we're so free to talk. But we have to understand that freedom comes with a certain amount of responsibility. Yes.
So the individual in question, sick, can't come to work, have a medical sick leave to show, is advertising afternoon classes, but went beyond that and has applied to the ministry for permission to utilize a school to have the afternoon class. How do you deal with that? And I'm telling you facts that I have found out from my investigation. You have cases where they can prove that people would have gone to a doctor and be given sick leave for 3 days. But when the documentation arrived in the hands of the principal or the ministry, it has been altered. So one was placed in front of the tree. So immediately a sick leave moved from 3 days to 13 days.
Oh my God.
Or one was placed after the 2. So it moved from 2 days to 21 days. I mean, so many things are happening. The public is not fully aware of. Yes? Mm-hmm. I mean, if we are at all concerned about our country, if we are at all concerned about progress, about development, about growth, about establishing standards, about making sure that our young ones, our children, who should be in the classroom and be supervised by a teacher, if we are only given the opportunity to supervise some schools or a number of schools in a particular district, because the schools are placed in district, we will be appalled at how many classes on a daily basis are being left without a teacher because of absenteeism. And then when you further investigate why were they absent, you would find out it is because they were engaged in doing other things for reward, for pay, or so. And here it is, the ministry is trying to stem those things by first of all saying to the people in their employment, this is what your code of conduct. In fact, for the benefit of the public, the union, the Grenada Teachers of Union, have put together on their own, not the ministry, a code of conduct for the workers, for teachers, and has brought it to the ministry and said, listen, you must take a look at that. This is what we are proposing we should use as guidelines, because we too are very concerned about the breakdown in what we're seeing in the profession. We want the profession, we want the people that we represent as a union to be held to a higher standard, to higher scrutiny. We want them to become more professional.
Of course.
Right? So when you speak about a teacher, you must speak about them with pride. We are concerned as a union, and they have since brought that, which the ministry is now looking at and may want to implement over time after they would have studied it, after they would have had consultation. So that's the direction that it is going. So it is a concern not just for the ministry and the chief education officer, not just for the government, but even the unions have raised the concerns of what they are seeing and referring to as a breakdown in the profession.
Absolutely.
So I'm saying to the public out there, before we go about and start blasting people and start believing that someone is wanting to get to the throat of the teachers and is against the teachers, try and find out the facts. Do a little research. Now, I know that there are some very clever people who would want to jump at me for that statement to say, well, it's not only the teachers doing. Of course, it's not only the teachers. We are just dealing specific with the teachers because the circular went specifically to them. But this is the ordinances for all public servants. And of course, there are other areas that we can highlight where there's breakdown, where we need to do more. And we are taking them one by one, step by step. And we are not immune to the problems. Yes? But because other areas are doing doesn't mean that we shouldn't start fixing. Doesn't mean that we shouldn't start in a particular area. And I do believe that the Ministry of Education is going to start taking a closer look than they have been doing before, or are going to start to implement measures that are going to deal with some of what is happening. I think we have someone.
All right, and let's take our first call for the morning. Good morning, caller. Hi, caller, can you listen to us on the telephone and not on the radio, please?
Hello.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning, Miss Duncan
Mm-hmm.
and Mr. Bola.
Sure.
I've been listening to you for a long this while, and I've been trying to get in, but I realized, well, you're not yet maybe taking in calls.
Yes.
Because I was trying to address something that you addressed in the beginning of your discourse, but you said so many things after.
Yes.
And so I don't know where to start from. But you know, because there are some of us who pretend that we are more honest and more sincere and we're more just than everybody else, and we don't trust anybody. But I was amazed to hear some of the things that you have said, you know, in respect to what some of the teachers might be doing. And of course, not only teachers, as you said, there are also other public officers that carry on their own business and do their own thing.
Yes.
Well, I, for one, I must say up front that I was always against maybe that rule whereby public officers, public servants cannot own a business or cannot engage in other things. But of course, there must not be any conflict of interest. Or that activity, that new activity or side activity should not clash with a regular, job, the permanent job and so on. But I just want to backtrack a bit because I was traveling from St. George's on Friday afternoon, and I was also listening to that program, to that radio station. It's a popular radio station, and the bus that I was traveling on, That's the station that the driver had tuned into. So I was listening. And, you know, some of us who call ourselves radio announcers and hosts, and we feel we've become so popular in this country that we're more popular than those who the people of Grenada who have elected to manage their affairs for a period of time, you know. We say just anything, anytime, how we want, you know, when we want and so on. And in the same breath, you know, sometimes these people turn around and talk about attempts to muzzle the press and attack on freedom of speech and all of that. We say what we want, you know, whatever we want, however we want, and still we turn around and accusing the powers that be of wanting to crack down on freedom of expression and all of that. And I heard the gentleman was talking about, so I thought he was talking about maybe the non-established workers within the public service. So he said that, well, if they cannot pay all, what's that effect, they shouldn't take anything for themselves and that kind of thing. And the same thing, you're sorry for Magadal, they turn around and bite you and so on. And I like him, is it the President General of, is it the Commercial and Industrial, he didn't call the union name, but George Mason. And I like to see when they get him vexed. They must get him vexed more regularly than that. And a whole setup thing. And sometimes I question the kind of things that we see on radio. We say just about anything on radio. Sometimes we don't know the truth. We don't get down to the bottom of it. And as so-called journalists, some of us call ourselves journalists. We don't get down to the bottom of a matter. We don't, you know, we don't delve. We don't try to find out the truth. More than we just take the thing from one side and we just run with it. We go on the radio and then trying to get the support because we feel we're popular on radio. So anything we see, people would believe us, you know, and trying to create sedition, if that might be a strong word. Trying to create instability. They find things are going too well, so they want to unsettle the, you know, the earth and so on. And I've been listening to the gentleman, and I was traveling from St. George's to St. Patrick's, and until I dropped out from the bus, he was just engaged in just, in my opinion, misleading the public. Because as far as I know, agreement was reached with the Grenada Union of Teachers, with the Public Workers Union, with GMMIW, with the with everybody, all the other unions,
associations,
right?
everybody that is employed.
So I thought he was, you know, and so on. So the man was just carrying on and on and on. And you see, the thing about it is that some of us are engaged in the negative. It's like, we don't want to see this country move forward. As I say, you know, all of us have to come on board to make the difference. Too many times we're looking at politicians who do this and politicians. I thought, well, what the politician comes in here? Because whereas, as I say, when it's time for them to take their up, I give them their up. But there are certain things, for example, so if we're talking about the ministry, right? So, okay, we have the minister as the head of the ministry. But the actual affairs have been managed by the public service, by the permanent secretary.
The permanent secretary.
And the SEO and other senior personnel in whichever ministry. And then something would have gone wrong because of neglect or something by the
supervision
who's supposed to be in charge, right? But they don't want to take the blame. They want to pass the buck. And the public go join and they go on to blame politicians and so on and so forth. Also last week I was listening to another popular radio station. Well, in fact, it calls itself the national station, you know, and so on. And they had a guest, the leader of the NDC. And I listened to the lady. I was trying to get onto the program, but I didn't. And she was, well, in other words, she made governance simple. And it's just a little bit of us, it's 100 of us, and this thing is easy to manage, but those who are in charge now, they can't run the affairs, they can't do this and they can't do that. And I listen and I laugh. And she talked about, well, I don't know if I should use the term inclusiveness, because she was talking about the government or the powers that be now, they're doing everything they're doing is just for who support them, the supporters and what have you and so on, and things are not being fairly distributed and a whole set of things. But she was talking about people with talent. But listen who she mentioned. So she, Dr. George Vincent, Anne Cecilia John, Ray Roberts, all executive members of a party, of their party. So we're talking inclusiveness, you know. But we didn't mention somebody else that maybe we don't know the political leaning, or they're not, a member of the executive of a political party. You know, and sometimes we talk. She talk about some programs that they had in place. Okay, well, I don't know. I had to investigate. She said that in the Ministry of Education, there was a special desk dealing with persons, children with disability. And I would support that. I believe this should be given special attention. But you say now they have since that desk no longer exists. They bring everything back to normal as it used to be. So I'm not sure about that. So I have to find out if you have any information, any light, you could share.
Well, I
that.
don't have
But
information. But let me
my
just say
appeal
that
before
too.
I leave. My appeal before I leave to Grenadians, to all of us as electors, as voters, we should not be just depending. Yes, the people who we have elected, they are there to guide, to manage the affairs of the country, right? Both for the material and the human resource, right? To manage things. That's what we put them there to do. But we should not just look to them to do everything. In fact, we have responsibilities too, and we have to live up to our responsibility. We have to do what we have to do, and they have to do what they have to do, right? And therefore, and that's when we are going to see a difference. That's when we are going to see the change. As I usually say to my household and to people who are coming into contact with, and I wrap with that, we have to be the change that we want to see. And if we think we want the politicians to go down a different road, or to act or behave differently, we could demand that. We could have them, but we must first set the tone. We must put our money where our mouth is. We cannot expect everybody around us to change, and we remain the same. Somebody else I want to get on. So
right, thank you. I think you've said a lot, but you've said some things that really make a lot of sense, because of course, inclusiveness, as you mentioned, just straying out of the topic a bit. You don't always have to be waiting to be invited. You don't have to be given a position. If you love Grenada and you want to do something for Grenada, let's just do it.
I agree.
Just do it. Let's be the change that we want to see.
Absolutely. We have another caller on the line. Good morning, caller. Hello, caller. Good morning. Good morning, caller. Seems like we've lost that caller. But something I definitely want to touch on, Mr. Bola, is something that he said, and I'm meaning to talk about it, but more at length in a different on a different day. But he did make mention of the leader of the opposition party, of course, saying that things are not shared equally, and that only supporters get or see the benefits. And you know what that led me to think about? It led me to think about all of the parents who didn't send their children for a scholarship because they believed that their children wouldn't get it. It led me to believe that all of the children that were affected by that statement, with the general intent of misleading the public and throwing blame in the laps of the administration, simply because you want Grenadians to vote in your favor or to put you in office. It led me to think about all of the families that were not encouraged to apply for social programs that would really benefit their families. All of the people that had to suffer as a result of these erroneous, libelous statements. And I mean, we as Grenadians must start thinking at a higher level. Because guess what? If you need help, you need help. There's no way that I am going to walk into the Ministry of Education and try to apply for a scholarship, and they're going to ask me on my form or ask me what is my political affiliation, right? Because we never know who we're going to meet in the Ministry of Education at that scholarship desk, because the ministry, like I said, the government or public service is made up of every single body who has different political affiliations. We will not know, right, who that person supports. So you may well go there and meet somebody that has that supports the NNP, that supports NDC, that doesn't support anybody, that supports GEM. We will not know. So to sit on a public forum and to tell people that these programs are biased, and to keep people from taking advantage of the opportunities of the programs that are available for them and their children, somebody needs to hold somebody accountable for that. Because it's very sad. We're looking at a drop in the amount of nurses in the hospital. How many of them are saying, well, the government has a tuition program for the St. George's University, and St. George's University offers
It's a degree program.
A degree program for nursing. How many of them are saying, well, go take advantage of that? How many? But no, they prefer to keep Grenadians in a position where they continue to condemn without information the administration and in turn suffer themselves when they can be in a better position. And this is something that really upsets me at times, you know? Because
Don't let it.
I mean, I cannot understand. I feel it for some of the families who are really in need, but because, and it's not our fault that we are so politically charged as a people, but they're looking to their party for some leadership and some guidance. And if the only guidance that you can give your members is to stay away from this program and to stay away from that program because you're not going to get through and vote us in so you're going to get into that program, then that is a very sad day for a lot of us Grenadians.
How can you be doing that and still talking inclusiveness? I don't think.
We have another caller on the line. Good morning, caller. Hi, caller. Good morning.
Good morning, Miss Duncan.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing extremely well. And good morning to Mr. Bowler.
Very good morning to you and Happy New Year to you as well. I don't think I had the opportunity to say that to you before.
I realize in your passing, you are a couple levels higher. So sometimes I realize that you have to focus more ahead than in terms of what is in front of you.
Yes.
No, Mr. Bowler, Miss Duncan, I'm glad to hear you all addressing this issue regarding teachers and public servants, because based on my limited knowledge and how I interpret the situation, Friday I did raise it, and I was not far away from what you all are saying today. But what surprised me is that, Mr. Bowler, did you say that some of these individuals are putting the one behind it, a one behind the two,
well, they're changing,
and a one in front of the three?
Yeah, they're adding more.
So they are. Some of them are taking the increments and salary increases on their own.
Well, maybe so, because when you are on sick leave, medical leave, the government pays you, or your employer, I should say, not just the government, but your employer pays. And at that same time, you are engaged in doing other things to get your income. It is a lot of unfairness that is taking place.
But not only that, if they apply...
Mr. Bowler, you know in the private sector,
yes,
if you was to do something like that, it would have simply mean instant dismissal?
Instant dismissal, of course.
Okay, no. All right. Now, Mr. Bowler, listen here, and Ms. Duncan, I'm a committed and dedicated supporter of this government, and in particular Minister Delma Thomas. But not everything the government do, I support. But what I find unusual is that those who oppose the government, everything the government do, they oppose. There is nothing that the government do that they are in support of. And the fact of the matter remains that this government is performing exceedingly well and much better than the government that they supported. I'm trying to figure this out. Now listen to this. Why so many people are selling corn by the roadside? Some people are asking that question. The question I want to ask is, why all the corns that being roasted every day is totally sold out? It's not enough. That is the question I want to ask.
Mm-hmm.
Gas prices. Yes, I agree gas prices is high. But the question I want to ask is, why so many new buses and private vehicles continue to be sold? So much so, we have to now regulate the market.
Mm-hmm.
Why our financial institutions are so relaxed in the lending policy? Why public servants are asking for so much today in contrast to another time? Why did public servants receive the benefits they received recently in contrast to another time? Why are residents and locals investing in houses and new businesses so much more now than another time? Why was the government able to respond to the Mardiner Road break collapse in such a timely manner? Why do we have a record number of students attending St. George's University? Why do we have so many people moving every morning? Miss Duncan and Mr. Bola, the proof is in the pudding.
Yes, sir.
And that's why today the motto in the Northwest constituency in St. Andrews is performance beats old talk. I trust you all will have a pleasant day.
Thank you. You enjoy your day as well. And food for thought.
Of course, absolutely.
Food for thought.
Absolutely. But Mr. Bola, we really need to take into consideration the fact that there is so much misinformation just being spread out there. And as you said, with the ability to have freedom of speech comes that responsibility.
Yes.
And I believe that a lot of our media personnel has the responsibility to their listeners to provide them with factual information, objective opinions, and non-biased solutions. They don't even provide solutions. They just bring news, cut and paste the way they pick it up, just so they sell it. There's no investigation, no details, nothing. Just leaving the public to their own opinions.
You know, they won't even pick up the phone and attempt to call someone who is involved in the processes that they're speaking about and say, look, I'm reading this, I'm seeing this, what's up? I am a radio announcer. I am going on air in another hour. I'd like to say something about that. But what are the facts? And no one, and I am in no way asking anyone to pick a side.
Yeah.
To say, well, I must speak on behalf of the government. No, just speak the facts.
The facts.
Because people need to know that when they hear something from you, they can rely on it as credible information. Now, if when issues happen, you just say all sorts of things that are baseless and has no fact, when really you need to say something that people should take cognizance of, they may just show you off. So, for example, if that same announcer or several others of those who do no investigation and just say things might come on here and say, well, there's a pending hurricane. Or news from the weather people say X, Y, Z. People say, boy, he always saying all kind of thing, or she always saying all sort of thing. And when you investigate, it's not true. Right? When it may well be factual at this time. So we have to hold ourselves responsible to act at a certain level with a certain standard.
Of course.
And let's do it for the benefit of ourselves and the people of Grenada.
Of course. We have another caller on the line. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, lady.
Good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Mr. Bola.
Good morning and Happy New Year to you, Bull.
Eh?
Good morning and Happy New Year to you. I don't think I told you so for the year yet.
Yes, sir. And Happy New Year to you, too.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
I just sit down there and say, let me call you and give you a buzz. Let me hear what you're saying.
Yes. Well, you ain't listening. You wasn't listening. The radio we're talking about this letter that went out to the teachers.
I don't hear you, sir.
I said we were talking about the letter. There's a circular that went out to teachers reminding them of their responsibilities as public servants, and it pointed to the section 56 of the staff orders.
Yes, sir.
Yes, so we were discussing
that. Well, that's why I say let me give you a buzz, because I want to know what's going on, because before the Christmas, you know, me and the Prime Minister they speak.
Yes, I knew that.
Right. So I want, and again, what I'm glad about, I'm glad them union take what they're supposed to get.
Yeah, well, that they said that.
What they was waiting on, sir?
Well, but I'm not sure. In one instance, they said there were a few other issues they wanted to discuss and, clarify. But maybe they did, because right now everything is in place, and they should be receiving the money at the end of the month.
And I like what the fella say about what the Prime Minister they say. In that one person that's supposed to get out of the pie.
Yes.
I like what Lionel Louis say.
Yeah, everybody has to get
the established worker and everybody is supposed to get peace.
Yes.
But again, they now know that, sir.
Well, they're learning.
They have to learn.
Yes, they're learning.
Because them alone that wanted.
Yes.
Other people not supposed to get.
Yes.
As if them in the workers too.
Yes.
If you tell them they wasn't established, but they work with government home so many years. Unlike me, so 50 odd years I work with government.
Yes. And you should get your slice of the pie as well.
But that program this morning is very good.
Thank you for that.
And you must all time be on the program, sir.
Well, as long as I can make it, I will come.
I am in full agreement with you.
A lot of difference and a lot of... I don't feel excited when you're on the program too.
Okay.
I know for me. I don't know for other people, but it don't make a lot of difference to me.
Thank you.
So I wish all you all the best.
Thank you. We wish you the best too, and we hope things work out for you.
And you're going to do what you're supposed to do.
Definitely so.
Yes,
Definitely. Take care. Enjoy your day.
Yeah, you too, sir.
All right. Nice.
In the last conversation we would have had this week, I spoke regarding members requiring more from the unions and unions doing more for their members. So we would have spoken about the productivity rate in Grenada being under 50%. What is the union's part in all of this? Because your workers are not producing, but yet you are asking them to strike and you are asking them to industrial action, and you want more, but they're producing less. So how do you deal with a situation like that? Do you require your now union to educate and to hold their members accountable when they're underproducing? Because you can't tell me that unions don't know, that there are workers all 10 o'clock in the day when they're supposed to be at work. You're passing in Barrington and you see them sit down. I mean, these are things that I have seen with my own eyes.
Well, two things. I do believe that the unions are aware, but not in defense, but to the unions' credit, while they have a responsibility to speak to their workers, their members, I should say, not necessarily their workers, but the members, and to educate them and to encourage them to produce. Because if you want more from the tree, it means that you have to give more to the tree.
To give more.
In order to get more, you have to care that mango tree better. You have to fertilize and make sure that it gets the adequate amount of water that it should and sufficient soil night so that it can bear more for you, which is the same thing as your employer. If your employer is not getting more from you, then they would not have more to give to you. But it is solely the responsibility, I believe, or more so, the responsibility of the employer to deal with some of these things. You can ask the union, I believe. So government, for example, as we were talking about, can say to the union, and I think at the last budget presentation, somewhere coming down closer to the end of his presentation, the Minister for Finance did make mention about the fact that for this year, they'd have to look at the whole issue of productivity and tie it in to your remuneration. Your level of productivity will determine how much. But he did also go on to say that must be done in consultation with the union.
With the unions,
they must come around the table. They must start looking, because it is an issue that sometimes we turn away from, we fail to address. But it must be addressed if we are to continue to make strive and to make progress. But having said that, and you spoke about productivity, I failed to mention in all of my ramblings earlier on that this year, 2020, the Ministry of Education and Human Resources has referred to this year as the year of higher quality and standards, right? So the issuance of the circular is also to do with the fact that they're expecting the people in their employment to lift themselves to a higher standard.
Of course.
And they as well, from a supervisory standpoint at the ministry level are going to set the bar a little higher, and so would want people to come up to play. So they're reminding them this is what the others say. But I do believe and honestly believe that maybe headed by or fueled by the Public Service Commission, maybe other ministries can play a part, can get involved. We really need to ensure that our public servants are well oriented with the laws that govern this service, with the rules and regulations, with the statutory orders, the SROs and so. Because so many, especially of the younger, the more junior public servants, because they're not recognizing and seeing their seniors setting the appropriate examples.
Exactly.
And ignorance of what they need to know and need to do doesn't help in any way.
Yeah.
So I think we have a great task on our hands to try to educate them. And I want members of the media and people on the outside of the service looking in not to just feel that everything must be politicized, that everything must go down a political lane, that everything is about government against. Government is not against. The unions or the workers, they're not in a conflict. They do not have a fight. It is an attempt to deal with something, some issues that has been happening that is damaging to the education system, that is affecting the ability of our children to learn as much as they should. Is to deal with the issue of the non-performance of some of our children. Because we do have children who still perform excellent at school because they've got supportive parents, they've got people at home who will ensure that they do their homework, that they do additional reading, they will sit with them and assist them to do research and so. But you do have some who don't have that same support system at home. And where there is a lack of presence in the classroom of a teacher, or particular attention given to these children, they will always fall through the crack. They'll be left back. And we are the same people who turn around and say, but look, we only got 30% of this, and we only have 40% of that, and we underperform. Why are we underperforming?
We have another call on the line. Good morning, caller.
The topic is so good. That's what I like. That's how I like when my man from the farm.
Let me tell you something, Mr. Man. Careful what you're saying in your mouth. I will get my lawyer to write you. You like when your man. Who's your man inside there? That's him. He can't be Roland Bola you're talking about.
Yes, they just like Roland Bola, man. They just love Roland Bola. Call it respect.
How are you?
Yeah, man. Because we're a good man. And we in the diaspora, you know. That's what we want to hear, man. We want to hear strong words and mean so much.
Yes.
But something what is lacking. I don't know if it's in the Caribbean, but I know in my country. Because during the revolution, Brother Bola.
Yes.
You have to sign in.
Yes.
And sign out.
But you're in that part of the world where you have to clock in, and nowadays they get so professional.
That's what I'm trying to come to now. Here you're going for lunch, you have to clock out.
Yes.
And you have to clock back in.
Yes.
You understand? So what, and some of them know it, even those who speak in, travel, come out here and get an education.
Yes.
And the same people going back on radio station and talking like if they don't know what's going on in the big world. You know, they think religions are fool.
Some of us think so.
Everything you do out here, you have to follow orders.
Yep.
You're working for a private firm, you got a job somewhere else, they have to know. Because Brother Bola, you happen to me already. You're coming another job and you're sleeping.
Yes.
You have to run downstairs and wash your face and go in a corner and see you could get a little hour nap. And that is not right.
It is not right. That's all we're saying. It's not right.
That is not right. And it happens here in the big world. And if they catch you,
that's it. Instant.
They don't suspend you, you know.
Instant. Yes. Yes.
You've been fired.
Yes.
So for we in Grenada pretending that we don't know what's going on, you know, it's a shame.
Yes.
And those who are opposing the government and opposing the teachers, because it's nothing to do with the teachers. The teachers know. The union is supposed to tell the teachers that. And even those who representing the teachers in the workplace supposed to make sure every year, the starting of the year, they say we praying every year now.
Yeah.
Every year we have to come up with that.
Yes.
Make sure the new workers know what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
When they get a job, you give them a printout.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to follow these orders.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't follow it, well then you cannot have this job.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can leave the job, take time out, and go and do another job.
Yeah.
In Canada here, they have cameras picking you up all on top house. Men who say they work in government, but they're doing construction.
Yes.
They're catching them.
Yes.
You understand me? They've been caught.
Mm-hmm.
So don't let nobody fool you. I know they're not fooling you.
Not at all.
Because you're smarter than that.
Yes.
Because you see, because education is universal.
Definitely, sir.
As long as you live, you're going to learn.
Definitely,
And I
sir.
hope this morning a lot of people learn from what you and Sister Duncan is trying to teach us.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Do the research.
Yes.
Go on the internet. Read for yourself.
Yes.
Don't let nobody read for you.
Mm-hmm.
Ask questions.
Mm-hmm.
Listen properly.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get on as a man at radio station who throwing old talk and trying to run like he talking about revolution again.
Mm-hmm.
That's revolution in parables. So I just call them.
Yes.
Yeah, you're throwing old talk for revolution in parables because that's the only way you could get in.
Mm-hmm.
You understand?
Yeah.
But God is good.
All the
And
time,
God
my
is good
brother.
all the time.
Take
We
care of
only good
yourself.
sometime.
Take care of
So
yourself.
you guys have a good day.
You as
God
well.
bless you.
Nice, and thank you for your contribution.
Yeah, so we really have to, as a people, start listen, dissect, seek further information. These things, it wasn't hard for me to get a copy of the staff orders, and it's not going to be hard for anyone else. You know, you have to want to seek the information, but some of them are very comfortable in the state that they are in now. You know, because, you know, taxpayers' dollars paying their salaries, and they're making a little money on the side and so on, and nobody really checking on them. So
But no one wants to stop them from making their little money on the side.
Exactly. Just
But
do it the right
do it the correct way. That's all they're saying to you.
Do it the right
Make your application, ensure that it doesn't go in conflict with what you're doing presently, because you cannot be paid. It's not fair. Twice for the same hour. You know, sometimes we used to say you can't serve the devil and God at the same time. I mean, you know, you cannot say that my pay is running as a public servant and then I'm still on the side there doing something, whether it's in your own property, in your own business or what. What is due to Caesar, as the Bible says, give it to Caesar and then do what you're supposed to do for you.
And you know, it's funny. I read a comment the other day that somebody would have posted, there should be further lenience on public servants and having a side job. And in my mind, I'm saying, well, this is nonsense, because if you are speaking from an informed place where you know that the productivity level of a public service is below 50%, then you wouldn't make a statement like that, you know. And I also heard somebody say, oh, well, this is just Massa saying, you know, when I read these ignorant comments, I have to laugh. This is just Massa saying to ask for permission. It's not that. It's just the public service wanting to be in an informed place, knowing what their public servants are doing. Because if you are using taxpayers' dollars to pay a group of people to do their jobs, then you must know
that the job is being done.
The job is being done, and that there's nothing restricting them, or there's nothing with the possibility of restricting them from completing their duties. You know, that's all they want to know. If you are running a legitimate business that will not affect your job, you're running 3, 4, 5, 6 businesses that will not affect your productivity level or will not be in conflict of interest of the job that you hold, where taxpayers' dollars are paying your salary, where on a yearly basis, you have to receive an increment, an increase to that said salary. You know, the public service just wants to know that there is nothing restricting you from doing that.
The Service Commission.
The commission.
Right. But let me just split in a point with that you have said. Because, you see, some of the people who are making people out there feel that the government is warring with the teachers, as they say, sorry for Maga dog, they turn wrong bite you. These are the same people, when things don't go as they should, doesn't follow the rules as they should, turn back and say that all politicians want to do is collect a salary. What are they doing? Now, when you're making attempts to address and deal with the defects that exist. They say you're bad. They say you're wicked. You're fighting a man for making a pankwai. That is never the case.
Never the case.
They're saying, let us do things orderly. You want to hold me to higher standards? You yourself must operate and act with higher standards.
I definitely agree. I mean, it's simply saying you are given a responsibility. Act within your responsibility. Let everything else follow, but it must not affect. Because we complain about the education system. Oh, it's not up to standard. Oh, we can do better. But yet, when government decides to enforce a 1969 rule or law that has been there,
established and has been on the books,
we now complain that government is fighting with the teachers and victimizing and abusing.
But Duncan, talk to any senior public officer who was well oriented into the system. Talk to Beryl Isaac and some of these people. They will tell you, and this is not the only thing. I mean, the whole ordinance is there for people to read. I know that as a public servant, even on your vacation time to leave the state, you need to get. You have to apply. You have to let the Public Service Commission know where you're going, how long you're going to stay. Sometimes they even require you to present your ticket, and then they give you permission. Because at the airport, the immigration officers can deny you access to the aircraft because you do not have the permission to leave the state.
And not only that, when they are on vacation, they must also inform the Public Service Commission if they choose to engage in any employment as well, because the Public Service Commission must also ensure that whatever form of employment that you choose to engage in, one, is not in conflict of interest, but will not cause any harm to your person, because you're expected to return back to work.
I mean, that's why I say people need to be properly oriented with the laws of engagement, because a lot of people act with ignorance. They are not aware. They don't even know that the rules exist. And so they get angry and they feel that you are against them, that you want to put some kind of political pressure. And there are those of us who are out there seeking to get a vote or two, wanting to get into the position of governance, and will not aid in educating our people. In fact, we are happy to keep them in ignorance so that they can feel that the present administration or those who are trying to put in place or to cause to happen what should be happening are bad and they're against you. Give me the chance. Give me the opportunity.
But you know what's going to happen? When they condone this kind of action and they get into office, do you think the productivity level will rise?
Of course
not, because they are still practicing the same nonsense that you would have condoned just to get into office. And like I said last week, instead of now trying to improve on the work that the government before would have laid, you are now fixing the problems that you helped to create. So you spend 4 or 5 years in office trying to fix a problem, and then you jump out of office saying, oh, well, we didn't have enough time. Of course you didn't have enough time, because you yourself created problems outside of office to get into office and now must fix them while in office.
So you mash up the dough, you burn the chair, you do all kind of things because you want to make things bad for the holder of the office now. And you get in and suddenly realize, well, no furniture. Who destroyed it? It was you. Your actions and what you encourage people to do. The door was broken down by you. So you had to know rebuild it. You had to find resources. You still have to pay. I mean, let's act sensible as a people. As I say, let's be more informed. Let's listen to whoever wants to speak, but question what they're saying. Is that really the truth? Question what Bola is telling you now. Is it really the truth? And the way you can question it and verify it is go online at Laws of Grenada, I think they have that thing. Laws of Grenada at gov.org.
I think it's grenadalaws.gov.
Find it and you must tell people so they can go on, because it's not just the Public Service Ordinance. It's just not the staff orders. There's the financial rules. It tells you about how you should operate as a person who works in a position where you collect. and receive monies on behalf of government. It tells you about traffic. It tells you about how the police should operate.
But do you know that there's also a law that states that for lack of information, you cannot use
well, I know that. yes. Ignorance of the law, they say no reason.
It's no reason.
No. Because if you break the law and you go before the magistrate and say, well, my worship or whatever, I did not know. I mean, depending on who, they might be lenient with you, with your punishment. But it is not an excuse for your action. You need to know. Yeah. And so public servants, teachers, whoever is listening, friends of the teachers, parents of the teachers, relatives of the teachers, who may believe what you hear on radio, that the government and the ministry and the minister and whoever is against the teachers, absolutely not. What we're trying to do is protect them, getting them to understand what and how they should operate in their position, and the necessary procedures that they must take when they want to be involved in certain things. Apply, bring it to the knowledge of the commission, because they hire and they can fire you. They can write you up for not all kind of misconduct, and so while you yourself think that you're innocent. So encourage them to do what is right, to do what is proper. There was a time in this country that when somebody became a teacher, it was an esteemed position. You were respected by the society. And then some people say, well, why the society don't respect us anymore? By your conduct. The way you have carried around yourself, the things you do, the things you say, the company you keep, how you behave. People would have lost that kind of respect for you. So you are now responsible for helping to bring back the respectability in the profession that you hold. Yes, your unions have a role to play. Your ministry, your principal, your supervisors, they all do. But you, if you do not hold yourself to a certain standard, nobody will hold you up to it. Like some people say, if you don't stand for something, you would fall for anything.
Absolutely.
So let's do what's right. Let's do what's correct. Let's do the investigation. Let's get in the know, and let's perform wherever we are. We are a team, and whatever position you are given, please perform to the best of your ability within the realms of the law.
Absolutely. And it is on that note that we are going to close. Of course, guys, it's always a pleasure speaking with you. Remember to tune in. This week we have a lot of conversation coming up, good conversation to get you informed, to see where your head's at. So don't be afraid to call with your questions. Put everything on paper now so you don't forget when Wednesday come. All right? Tomorrow we are hoping, of course, given the time, that the Minister of Education will give us a call, and she will be speaking on matters of education, where they have come from, what they plan to do for the upcoming year. So in whatever you do and whatever you say, guys, be safe, be secure. We always want to be talking with you and never about you. Enjoy the remainder of your day.
Stay up to date with all that's happening with the new national party, NNP. Send us a message via text or WhatsApp on 405-8683 with your name, email, and constituency. Stay in the know with NNP. Get updated.
I love my Grenada, my homeland forever. Sing the chorus louder, tell them about Grenada, the land of my grandfather. She will always prosper. Oh, my Grenada, land of peace and culture.
Pure Grenada, the small but beautiful and unspoiled tri-island state of Grenada, Carriacou and Petite Martinique is located in the Caribbean with a population of just about 100,000 people. Led by Eric Matthew Gary, Grenada got its independence in 1974 from Great Britain and had 7 prime ministers since independence. Keith Mitchell is the country's sitting prime minister and is also the longest-serving prime minister in Grenada's history. He is described as one of the most visionary, respected, and accomplished leaders in the world. The large majority of Grenadians are happy with his leadership, and in 3 national elections, the people have voted and gave his party an unprecedented clean sweep at the polls. Prime Minister Mitchell has guided Grenada through difficult periods such as the rebuilding process after the passage of Hurricane Ivan in 2004, and the rebuilding of the economy after 5 years of the NDC administration that ran 2008 to 2013. During that period, the NDC government became bankrupt and was unable to manage the economy. They had to resort to selling multiple government properties to the NIS to pay salaries of public workers. At no time during that period was any public officer able to get an increase in salary or increments owed to them. The NDC government was plagued with infighting and scandal. After just 2 years in office, the NNP government paid public officers increases and increments owed to them for the period 2009 to 2012 to the tune of $58 million. An additional 10% increase in salaries was paid for the period 2017 to 2019. A total of over $110 million was paid during these periods. Officers have been relieved from financial uncertainty as they have been receiving salaries on time every month thereafter. With support from social partners, government was also able to successfully implement a 3-year homegrown structural adjustment program. As a result of this remarkable leadership and ability to manage the economy, the World Bank, in 2018, recognized Prime Minister Mitchell as the most outstanding finance minister in the region. The country continues to move on an impressive upward trajectory and is promoted as a model destination and economy not merely in a regional but international basis, as investors have been finding Grenada to be a safe, peaceful, and excellent climate to do business. But how is the NNP government seen locally? The party has been branded by the majority as a party for all that has transformed the economic landscape of the country while providing for the social needs of ordinary people, especially the poor and vulnerable. This social approach of the government has been attacked and labeled by the NDC for the needy and greedy. Although this labeling has angered many Grenadians across party lines and has attempted to sow seeds of discord among various socio-economic groupings, the NNP has remained steadfast in its philosophy and continues to support the poor and vulnerable. Over the last 7 years, over $70 million was spent on house repair. Additionally, 353 housing units were distributed to families throughout Grenada, and 647 more are currently under construction. Hundreds of scholarships are granted every year as a strategy to lift families out of poverty and to empower them. That is why the government spends more than $50 million every year to support Grenadian students studying at universities in Grenada and abroad. As a means of providing further support to families, government paid out over $17 million through the SEED program to assist parents to support their children's education and to meet the basic needs of senior citizens. The government plans to further expand its social programs in 2020 so more people can benefit. To be able to sustain these social programs while at the same time investing in major capital projects such as road enhancement and community development initiatives, government has adopted a multifaceted approach to raise revenue. One such means is the Citizens by Investment program, which has led to significant investment opportunities. This has had a ripple effect, resulting in thousands of jobs for locals and increased business for local companies. It has also reduced the need for increased taxes. In addition to the many projects already started, such as the Silver Sands Hotel, which opened about a year ago, at least 4 more hotels are earmarked to start construction work in St. Patrick's and St. David's. Projects that will rebound to significant benefits for people in the rural parishes, including farmers, fishermen, and the unemployed. This multi-pronged approach to economic development can explain why the government, on returning to the office, has been able to reduce unemployment figures from over 40% under the NDC in 2013 to 15.1% in the first quarter of 2019. Government's focus is now on developing a comprehensive training program to prepare people for thousands of jobs that are forthcoming. the government must be credited for a huge reduction in the national debt. During the 2008 election campaign, the NDC accused the NNP of incurring high national debt, but the NNP has always argued that the debt, which was incurred mainly for major government projects, is not the real issue. The party has explained that the most important issue regarding the national debt is the country's ability to repay its debts. With this philosophy in mind, government was able to successfully reduce the debt to GDP from 108% to 55.8% in just 7 years. This outstanding achievement provides additional room for government to create far more opportunities for the people of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite-Martinique. On November 19th, during his annual budget speech, Prime Minister Mitchell announced a $1.46 billion budget. One of the biggest focus of the government in this new budget will be to improve healthcare services. Already, millions have been committed to a national health insurance initiative, and JIPA, a US-based company led by a Grenadian, Dr. Castroned, was contracted to lead the process. Responding to a recent video created by a foreign company, coordinated and marketed by opposition elements in Grenada, with the intention to destroy the reputation of Prime Minister Mitchell and to destabilize the government, key supporters of the ruling party say that it is unfortunate that opposition elements in the country will choose to put selfish ambitions and party politics before country, going out of the way to discredit the country internationally with lies and rumors. But Prime Minister Mitchell says his focus now is on building Grenada and providing opportunities for the people, and as a result, he will not allow himself to be drawn into an opposition's strategy aimed at derailing the success of the country. Despite the local party politics in Grenada, the tri-island state of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite-Martinique continues to be a shining star in the region and a beacon of hope for the economic prosperity of the Caribbean region.
Stay up to date with all that's happening with the new national party, NNP. Send us a message via text or WhatsApp on 405-8683 with your name, email, and constituency. Stay in the know with NNP. Get updated.